Dean Martin wasn't just a singer, an actor, or a comedian. He was the embodiment of effortless cool. With a voice as smooth as silk and a charm that lit up every room, he ruled Hollywood for decades. But behind the tuxedo and the easygoing smile was a man who faced heartbreak and loss. In 1987, tragedy struck when his son, Dean Paul Martin, died in a devastating plane crash. It was a moment that shattered him, pushing him away from the spotlight he once commanded. He turned down million-dollar offers, walked away from the stage, and spent his final years in quiet solitude. But when he passed away on Christmas Day in 1995, he left behind more than just a remarkable career. He left a legacy, a fortune, and a story that continues to inspire. This is the journey of a poor Italian immigrant's son who became a legend. From humble beginnings to Hollywood royalty, this is the life of Dean Martin. And what they found in his estate will leave you shocked. In 1917, in the small steel town of Steubenville, Ohio, a boy named Dino Paul Crocetti was born to Italian immigrant parents. Life wasn't easy. He grew up speaking only Italian, and when he started school, he struggled to understand his teachers and classmates. The other kids teased him for his broken English and thick accent, making him feel like an outsider. But Dino was quick-witted. He learned that making people laugh could turn their ridicule into friendship. That sense of humor, a tool for survival in his youth, would later make him one of the most beloved entertainers in history. As a teenager, he wasn't interested in school. At 16, he dropped out, convinced that a classroom couldn't teach him what he needed to know about life. Instead, he took on rough physical jobs, working in a steel mill where the heat was relentless and the days were long. He even stepped into the boxing ring under the name Kid Crochet, hoping to fight his way to a better life. But after 12 fights, most of them losses, he realized he wasn't destined to be a champion. The broken knuckles and crooked nose were proof of that. To make ends meet, Dino took whatever work he could find, even if it wasn't always on the right side of the law. During Prohibition, he bootlegged liquor, running bottles of illegal alcohol across town. He became a blackjack dealer in underground gambling clubs, rubbing elbows with gangsters and high rollers. These jobs weren't glamorous, but they toughened him up, gave him street smarts, and, most importantly, introduced him to the world of nightclubs, a world that would change his life forever. By the early 1940s, Dino had found his escape, music. He started singing in local clubs, his voice smooth, effortless, unlike anything audiences had heard before. He first called himself Dino Martini, inspired by a famous opera singer, but it was a bandleader named Sammy Watkins who saw his potential. "Kid," Watkins told him, "Dino Martini sounds like a guy selling spaghetti. You need something sharper. How about Dean Martin?" The name stuck, and with it, a new chapter began. But success didn't come overnight. One of his first big gigs at a fancy New York nightclub was a disaster. The audience barely paid attention, and he left the stage humiliated. Many would have given up, but Dean was determined. He kept working, fine-tuning his style, figuring out what made people listen. And then, fate intervened. In 1945, at a small club in New York, Dean met a young comedian named Jerry Lewis. Lewis, wild and unpredictable, had a knack for making people laugh, while Dean, with his relaxed charm, had the ability to keep things cool. Their first performance together happened by accident. Lewis jumped on stage and started interrupting Dean's act, throwing in jokes, making faces, turning what was supposed to be a smooth singing set into a whirlwind of comedy. The audience went wild. They had never seen anything like it before. Realizing they had stumbled onto something special, Dean and Jerry officially teamed up. Their act was electric. Dean played the suave, straight-laced singer, while Jerry was the out-of-control comic, creating chaos around him. They weren't just funny. They were fresh, unpredictable, and completely different from anything audiences had ever seen. Their big break came in 1946 at the 500 Club in Atlantic City. Initially booked as separate acts, they were thrown together after another performer canceled. That night, Jerry, dressed as a busboy, crashed Dean's set, dropping plates, making ridiculous faces, disrupting the performance in the best way possible. The crowd roared with laughter. The club owner, who had been hesitant about the duo, was now convinced. They were a hit. From that moment on, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis became the most sought-after act in the country. They took over the biggest nightclubs, from New York's famous Copacabana to Hollywood's hottest venues. Their blend of music and slapstick comedy was unlike anything on the scene. Unlike other performers who followed strict routines, Dean and Jerry improvised, keeping their acts unpredictable and exciting. Every show felt different, and the crowds couldn't get enough. By 1949, their fame had skyrocketed. NBC gave them their own radio program, The Martin and Lewis Show, where millions tuned in to hear their antics. Hollywood took notice, and that same year, they made their film debut in My Friend Irma. Though they weren't the lead characters, their presence stole the show. Audiences loved them, and soon Martin and Lewis were box office gold. Television came calling, and in 1950, they became the stars of the Colgate Comedy Hour. This wasn't just another variety show, it was a game changer. They didn't follow the rules of traditional TV. Instead of sticking to the script, they played off each other, cracking jokes, pulling pranks, keeping every performance fresh and alive. Their first episode had a massive $3 million budget. Unheard of at the time, but it paid off. They dominated the ratings, even outperforming major stars like Eddie Cantor. In just 5 years, they had gone from small-time performers to the biggest names in entertainment. They headlined the biggest shows, sold out venues across the country, and became household names. Their partnership was magic, and together, they were unstoppable. But behind the scenes, cracks were starting to form, and as quickly as they had risen, the duo that defined an era was about to come apart. By the mid-1950s, the shine of Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis's partnership was beginning to fade. What started as a perfect blend of comedy and cool was turning into a clash of egos. Jerry's outrageous antics often stole the spotlight, leaving Dean feeling like a mere supporting act. Despite the duo's enormous success, Dean grew frustrated, sensing that his role had been reduced to setting up punchlines for Jerry's wild humor. The tension boiled over during their shows, with Dean's relaxed style clashing against Jerry's high-energy chaos. The breaking point came in 1956. During the filming of Hollywood or Bust, their strained relationship was evident to everyone on set. Off-screen, they barely spoke. On July 25th, exactly 10 years after their first big break at the 500 Club, Dean and Jerry performed together for the last time at the Copacabana. It was an emotional night, filled with nostalgia and a bittersweet farewell. Though their act still dazzled the audience, the magic felt forced, and behind the smiles, the partnership had run its course. Rumors swirled. Could Dean make it without Jerry? Many speculated his career might be over. But Dean Martin wasn't done. Instead of fading away, he surprised everyone with a bold move. He reinvented himself. Determined to prove he was more than just Jerry Lewis's straight man, Dean turned to serious acting. In 1958, he landed a pivotal role in The Young Lions, starring alongside Marlon Brando and Montgomery Clift. It was a dramatic departure from his comedic image, a chance to show his depth as an actor. Critics were stunned by his performance. Dean Martin wasn't just a funny guy, he was a real talent. His comeback caught the attention of Frank Sinatra, who invited him to join the Rat Pack, a group of entertainers who defined cool in the late 1950s. Alongside Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop, Dean found a new home in Las Vegas. The Rat Pack's legendary shows at the Sands Hotel weren't just concerts, they were events. Dean's laid-back charm was a perfect fit. On stage, he was effortlessly cool, sipping a drink and cracking jokes while crooning timeless songs like That's Amore and Ain't That a Kick in the Head. He became a Vegas icon, beloved by audiences for his humor and style. In Hollywood, Dean continued his success with films like Ocean's 11, 1960, where he played a suave member of a gang planning a daring casino heist. The movie, featuring the entire Rat Pack, became a classic, cementing his status as a leading man. He followed up with Robin and the Seven Hoods, 1964, a playful twist on the Robin Hood story set in Prohibition-era Chicago. Dean's smooth presence and easygoing charm made him a fan favorite. But it wasn't just acting that brought Dean back to the top. His music career was thriving too. In 1964, he released Everybody Loves Somebody, a song that unexpectedly knocked the Beatles off the top of the charts. It became his signature hit, showing that even in the era of rock and roll, Dean Martin's timeless style could still captivate audiences. He wasn't trying to change with the times. Instead, he stayed true to himself, and people loved him for it. With his star shining brighter than ever, NBC approached Dean with a new opportunity, his own variety show. In 1965, The Dean Martin Show premiered, bringing his charm and humor into living rooms across America. Unlike other hosts, Dean's style was loose and unpredictable. He'd joke, ad-lib, and sometimes even poke fun at the show itself. His relaxed attitude made the audience feel like they were in on the joke, and it quickly became a hit. Celebrities lined up to appear, and Dean's easy rapport with his guests made every episode feel like a party. What set The Dean Martin Show apart was its spontaneity. Dean didn't take things too seriously. He'd often show up unprepared, reading lines from cue cards or improvising jokes on the spot. This laid-back approach gave the show a unique charm. Viewers never knew what to expect, and they loved the unpredictability. As the show's popularity grew, so did Dean's status as a television star. He won a Golden Globe in 1966 for his performance, further solidifying his place in entertainment history. But as times changed, the show's format began to evolve. In 1974, producers introduced a new segment, the Dean Martin Celebrity Roasts. These episodes featured Dean and a panel of celebrities playfully poking fun at a famous guest. The roasts were lighthearted and hilarious, capturing the spirit of Dean's humor perfectly. The roasts became a cultural phenomenon, giving audiences a glimpse of Hollywood's biggest stars in a more casual, comedic setting. Dean's sharp wit and effortless charm made him the perfect host, and the roasts became some of the most beloved episodes of the show. They proved that even after years in the business, Dean Martin was still at the top of his game. Despite his success on television, Dean remained true to his roots. He continued performing in Las Vegas, his shows still drawing huge crowds. He never lost that easy, laid-back style that made him a star in the first place. And as his career reached new heights, he proved to the world that he didn't need to be part of a duo to shine. Dean Martin, the king of cool, had truly come into his own. Dean Martin was the epitome of charm and effortless cool on stage, but behind the scenes, he was a devoted family man. Over the course of his life, he was married 3 times and had 8 children. Despite the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, his kids always knew him as Dad. His first marriage to Betty McDonald in 1941 gave him 4 children: Craig, Claudia, Gail, and Diana. Though their marriage didn't last, ending in divorce in 1949, he remained a loving father, always making time for his children despite his rising fame. His second marriage to Jean Bieger was his longest, lasting 24 years. They had 3 more children: Dean Paul, Richie, and Gina. Jean was often seen as the love of his life, supporting him through the highs and lows of his career. But even the strongest relationships face challenges, and in 1973 they parted ways. His third marriage, to Catherine Hahn in 1973, lasted only 3 years, though he adopted her daughter Sasha and treated her as his own. While his personal life had its ups and downs, his love for his children remained constant. No matter how packed his schedule was, Dean always found time for family dinners, holidays, and special moments. His daughter Diana fondly recalled how their home was always filled with music and laughter. To the world, he was a superstar, but to his children, he was the warm, funny, and protective father who never let fame overshadow his love for them. His kids grew up surrounded by Hollywood royalty. Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. were like uncles. Marilyn Monroe would stop by for visits, and yet, through it all, Dean kept his family grounded. But in 1987, his world came crashing down. His son, Dean Paul Martin, a pilot for the California Air National Guard, tragically died in a plane crash during a routine training mission. He was only 35 years old. The loss shattered Dean. Friends and family noticed an immediate change in him. The man who once lit up every room with a joke and a song withdrew from the spotlight. The sparkle in his eyes dimmed, and he was never quite the same again. He had always been a private person, but after Dean Paul's death, he retreated even further. He turned down lucrative offers, including a high-profile Rat Pack reunion tour with Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. Performing no longer brought him joy. The stage, which had once been his sanctuary, now felt empty. Instead, he found comfort in the little things, spending long afternoons on the golf course, one of his favorite pastimes, or watching classic Western films, reminiscing about simpler times. His love for golf became more than just a hobby. It was his escape, a quiet refuge from the pain he carried. His health also began to decline. He had always been known for his signature drink in hand, though many joked that it was often just apple juice. But in his later years, the drinking caught up with him. His once vibrant energy faded, and his appearances became fewer and fewer. By the early 1990s, he had completely stepped away from public life. While old friends still checked in on him, Dean preferred solitude. The man who once commanded the grand stages of Las Vegas now spent his days in peace, away from the cameras, away from the crowds. On December 25, 1995, the world lost an icon. Dean Martin passed away in his Beverly Hills home at the age of 78 due to respiratory failure. It was poetic in a way. Christmas, a time of warmth and togetherness, marked the farewell of a man who had brought joy to millions. His passing was met with an outpouring of love. Tributes poured in from fans, celebrities, and fellow performers. Frank Sinatra, devastated by the loss of his closest friend, simply said, "He was like my brother." The lights of the Las Vegas Strip were dimmed in his honor. a fitting tribute to a man who had defined an era of entertainment. But even in death, Dean Martin's legacy lived on. He left behind a fortune of $30 million, built from decades of hit records, box office successes, and savvy business investments. His estate, carefully managed, continued to generate wealth for his family through royalties, licensing deals, and the enduring popularity of his work. Yet his real legacy wasn't in the money or the fame. It was in the way he made people feel. His voice, timeless and unmistakable, still fills the airwaves. His films continue to captivate audiences, and his easygoing, charismatic presence remains a gold standard in entertainment. Dean Martin didn't just entertain, he became part of people's lives. Whether it was a song playing in the background of a romantic evening, a joke that made someone laugh after a hard day, or a classic film that brought families together, his influence was everywhere. And it still is. Even now, decades after his passing, his music, his movies, and his legendary charm continue to inspire new generations. Because legends like Dean Martin never really fade. They live on in the memories they leave behind, in the songs that never lose their magic, and in the laughter that still echoes from their greatest performances. Dean Martin wasn't just the king of cool. He was a man who knew how to make the world smile. And that, more than anything, is why he'll never be forgotten. Dean Martin wasn't just a performer. He was a businessman, and a smart one at that. While many stars of his era lived lavishly but struggled financially later in life, Dean made decisions that ensured his fortune would last long after he was gone. He understood that fame could be fleeting, but smart investments could create lasting security. One of his most significant ventures was in real estate. In the 1970s, he purchased a luxurious home in Beverly Hills for what seemed like a modest sum at the time, $120,000. Over the years, the property expanded into a sprawling 12,000-square-foot estate, a symbol of his success. After his passing, the house was sold for over $1.3 million and later resold for nearly $2 million. Today, the property has been redeveloped into a modern mansion worth tens of millions, a testament to the wise investment choices he made. Beyond Beverly Hills, Dean also owned a stylish Palm Springs retreat, a place where he could escape the Hollywood scene and relax in the desert sun. That home, like many of his investments, grew in value over time, contributing to the fortune he left behind. But his financial foresight extended far beyond real estate. Understanding the importance of protecting his legacy, Dean established the Dean Martin Family Trust, ensuring that his children and heirs would continue to benefit from his life's work. This trust managed the royalties from his vast catalog of music, television appearances, and film performances. Unlike many entertainers who lost control of their earnings, Dean's estate remained profitable, allowing his family to receive income from his work even decades after his passing. Streaming services and digital platforms have only increased the value of his catalog. His songs, once played on jukeboxes and vinyl records, are now streamed millions of times a year, introducing his voice to younger generations who may not have even been born when he was at the height of his fame. Licensing deals, merchandise, and branding opportunities have kept his image and music alive in pop culture. Whether it's a classic track used in a film, a television commercial featuring his iconic croon, or a newly released box set of his greatest hits, Dean Martin continues to generate revenue and remain relevant. But business aside, Dean's legacy is about more than just money. It's about the lasting impression he left on the world. And few have worked harder to preserve that legacy than his daughter, Deanna Martin. Growing up in the shadow of a legend, Deanna has dedicated her life to keeping her father's memory alive. She's written books, including her heartfelt memoir, memories are made of this. Dean Martin through his daughter's eyes, offering fans an intimate look at the man behind the legend. Diana has also taken to the stage, performing her father's songs in tribute concerts around the world. With each performance, she brings his music to life for a new generation, sharing stories of his warmth, humor, and timeless charisma. She even helped establish the Dean Martin Festival in his hometown of Steubenville, Ohio, an annual celebration that honors his contributions to music, film, and entertainment. But keeping a legend's legacy alive in the modern world requires more than just nostalgia. It takes innovation. In 2023, the iconic artists group signed a landmark deal with Dean Martin's estate to modernize and reintroduce his brand to contemporary audiences. This partnership is focused on expanding his reach through new licensing agreements, merchandise, and media projects, ensuring that his influence continues well into the future. One of the most exciting aspects of this partnership is its commitment to integrating Dean Martin's image and music into today's pop culture landscape. This means more than just re-releasing old albums. It means bringing his essence into new forms of entertainment. Potential biopics, documentaries, and immersive musical experiences could soon introduce his story to people who may only know his name in passing. His impact isn't just limited to the music industry. Dean Martin's effortless style, his sharp suits, his classic cool demeanor, has influenced fashion icons and designers for decades. His sense of humor and relaxed stage presence set a precedent for countless entertainers, from comedians to late-night talk show hosts. Even today, his work continues to inspire artists like Michael Bublé and Harry Connick Jr., who bring a similar old-school charm to modern audiences. Dean Martin wasn't just a star of his time, he was a timeless icon. His music, his image, and his legacy remain as powerful today as they were during the height of his fame. Thanks to careful planning, dedicated family efforts, and strategic business moves, the King of Cool remains as relevant as ever. And as long as people love great music, effortless charm, and a voice that can transport them to another era, Dean Martin will never truly fade away. Dean Martin didn't just entertain his own generation, he shaped the future of comedy, music, and pop culture in ways that are still felt today. His relaxed, seemingly effortless performance style became the gold standard for entertainers who followed, proving that talent and charisma didn't have to be loud or exaggerated. Instead, his charm was in his subtlety, the sly smile, the perfectly timed joke, the way he could hold an audience in the palm of his hand with just a glance or a line of a song. Comedians, musicians, and actors alike have credited Dean as an influence. His ability to blend humor with music inspired generations of performers who saw the value in keeping things natural and unscripted. Late-night talk show hosts from Johnny Carson to Jimmy Fallon have drawn from his ability to make every interview feel like a casual conversation between friends. His comedic timing influenced stand-up legends like Don Rickles and Bob Newhart, proving that effortless cool could be just as powerful as high-energy humor. In music, his influence can be heard in the smooth, sophisticated sounds of artists like Michael Bublé and Harry Connick Jr., who have carried the torch for classic crooners into the modern era. Bublé has often spoken about his admiration for Dean, even incorporating Martin's laid-back style into his own performances. Seth MacFarlane, the creator of Family Guy, has also been vocal about his love for the Rat Pack era, channeling Dean's signature sound in his own music career. But it's not just individuals who have been inspired. Dean Martin's impact extends to an entire genre of entertainment. His variety shows set the stage for countless others, proving that a blend of comedy, music, and guest appearances could create something magical. The free-flowing, spontaneous energy of Saturday Night Live, owes much to the groundwork laid by The Dean Martin Show, where improvisation and unscripted moments made for unforgettable television. His presence in film, particularly in the Rat Pack era, helped define what it meant to be effortlessly cool on screen, influencing actors like George Clooney, whose portrayal of Danny Ocean in the Ocean's 11 remake paid subtle homage to Dean's original performance. Despite the decades that have passed since his heyday, Dean Martin's music remains timeless. His songs continue to be featured in movies, commercials, and television shows, introducing new audiences to his voice without them even realizing it. Streaming platforms have made it easier than ever for younger generations to discover his work, with remastered albums and curated playlists keeping his sound alive. Tracks like That's Amore and Everybody Loves Somebody still resonate today, proving that great music never goes out of style. His enduring appeal is also reflected in the annual tributes that celebrate his life and career. The Dean Martin Festival in his hometown of Steubenville, Ohio, brings together fans from all over the world to honor his contributions to entertainment. His legacy is also kept alive through television specials, tribute concerts, and film retrospectives, ensuring that his story is passed down to new audiences. Dean Martin wasn't just a star of his time. He was a cultural icon whose influence still echoes through the worlds of music, film, and comedy. His smooth, effortless style, his ability to connect with an audience, and his undeniable charisma have made him a legend whose impact will never fade. And as long as people appreciate great music, unforgettable humor, and timeless cool, Dean Martin's legacy will continue to shine. Dean Martin wasn't just a star, he was a phenomenon. His influence stretched across music, film, television, and comedy, creating a body of work that continues to captivate audiences long after his final curtain call. His voice, smooth and timeless, still fills the airwaves, his films remain classics, and his television moments continue to inspire generations of entertainers. Even decades after his passing, his work stands as a testament to the power of effortless charm. From his early days as one half of Martin and Lewis to his solo stardom in Hollywood, from the legendary Rat Pack performances to his unforgettable television specials, Dean never lost the ability to connect with people. He made every performance feel intimate, as if he were singing just for you, sharing a joke just between friends. His music alone has ensured his place in history. That's Amore. Everybody loves somebody. And ain't that a kick in the head? Remain as fresh and vibrant as they were when they first hit the charts. His ability to blend humor with heart, coolness with sincerity, made his songs more than just music. They became moments in time, attached to memories that continue to be passed down. But Dean Martin's legacy isn't just in what he left behind. It's in the way he made people feel. His performances brought joy, laughter, and a sense of ease in a world that often felt too fast, too chaotic. He was a rare kind of star, one who never had to try too hard to shine. His talent felt natural, his charisma effortless. He made being cool look easy, and in doing so, he became unforgettable. As the years go by, his image remains iconic. Whether it's through black and white footage of a Rat Pack performance in Las Vegas, clips of his unpredictable antics on The Dean Martin Show, or the timeless romance of his music playing in the background of a new film, Dean Martin is still here. His voice, his humor, his unmistakable presence. None of it has faded. And now, as we look back on his life and his legacy, we celebrate the man who gave the world so much. A final tribute, his greatest performances, his most cherished moments. The twinkle in his eye as he delivered a perfectly timed joke. the effortless way he leaned into a song, the standing ovations that followed him wherever he went. As the music swells and the lights dim, we close with the song that defined him. That's Amore. The images of his greatest moments play across the screen. Dean at the Sands, Dean laughing with Sinatra, Dean in his tuxedo, raising a glass to the audience. And finally, as the screen fades to black, his voice lingers one last time. Everybody loves somebody sometime. A legend never truly leaves us. Dean Martin wasn't just an entertainer. He was a feeling, a presence, a reminder of a time when show business had a touch of magic. And as long as people love great music, unforgettable comedy, and timeless charm, the king of cool will live on. Dean Martin, a legend that never fades.